You are 34. You have $312,000 sitting quietly in an account nobody has ever asked you about. Your coworker makes the same salary. He has $7,400. The difference is not the job. The difference is not the bonus he keeps waiting for. The difference is one car you refuse to trade in and 10 years of people quietly assuming you couldn't afford a better one. This is your life driving the same car for 10 years. The decision. You are 24. A Saturday morning, a used car lot on the edge of town. The salesman's tie doesn't match his shirt. He calls you champ twice in the first minute. He walks you past the trucks, past the cars with leather seats and sunroofs, and stops at a 2011 Toyota Corolla. Silver, 74,000 miles. A small crack in the bumper he calls personality. You sit inside. Cloth seats. Crank windows. Nothing here would impress a single person, you know. You pay $7,800 cash. You drive home with the windows down and the check engine light already flickering once, then going quiet. That night, at your kitchen table, you do the math on a napkin. $300 a month, invested for 10 years. You do the calculation twice because the number doesn't feel real the first time. You fold the napkin, tuck it into a kitchen drawer, and forget about it for longer than you'd like to admit. The next morning, a gas station. You put in $11 of regular. The man at the next pump is filling up a brand new Ford F-150. He glances at your Corolla, then at you, and says nothing at all. At the office, a coworker named Brandon parks his leased BMW 2 spots down. Brandon laughs when he sees you get out. "Bro, that's actually your car?" You say, "Yeah." Brandon says, "Rav year, man?" A few weeks later, lunch with your Uncle Gerald. Almost 30 years in commercial real estate, never gives advice unless someone actually asks. You mention, casually, that you got a good deal on the Corolla. Gerald doesn't say congratulations. He sets down his fork, wipes his hands slowly, and says, "You know what most people are actually buying when they buy a car?" You say, "A car?" Gerald shakes his head. He says, "They're buying permission. Permission to feel like they've made it. Permission to be looked at a certain way. Permission to stop asking themselves who they really are." You go quiet. Gerald says, "That Corolla is the first time in your life you didn't buy permission." You laugh it off. He doesn't laugh with you. He wipes his mouth and says, 10 years from now, this might turn out to be the most expensive lunch I ever bought you." You drive home in the Corolla that evening. You don't know it yet, but that sentence just planted something you won't be able to shake. The first crack. You are 26. The Corolla has 98,000 miles on it now. The passenger mirror rattles at highway speed. You've stopped noticing. A Tuesday morning, a coffee shop near the office. You order a plain coffee for $2.60. The barista looks about 18. The phone in her apron pocket costs more than 6 months of your car insurance. You sit by the window with your coffee. The lot outside fills up. A Tesla, another Tesla, a lifted Ram, a Mercedes with dealer plates still on it. You glance out at your Corolla parked at the far end. It looks like a joke nobody bothered to laugh at. That afternoon, your younger cousin Kyle calls. He's 22, barely 6 months into his first real job. Kyle says, "I just got a car, bro." You ask what kind. He says, 2023 Acura. Lease is basically nothing, like $480 a month. That weekend, you swing by Kyle's apartment. The Acura sits in the lot, gleaming like it's on a showroom floor. Kyle walks a slow circle around it, the way people walk around things they can't quite afford but really want you to believe they can. His phone buzzes twice in his pocket. He glances down, something tightens in his jaw for half a second, and he slides the phone away without answering. You don't ask about it. The car is still just the car. Monday morning, back at the office. Brandon's back with fresh chrome rims on the BMW. He calls over, "Still rolling in the Corolla?" You say, "Yep." He says, "You good financially, man? Like actually good?" You say, "I'm good." He shrugs and walks off toward the building. You sit in your car for a solid 30 seconds afterward, both hands still on the wheel. It's not the money that bothers you. It's the specific way he asked the question. That night, a grocery store parking lot, close to 9. A woman is loading bags into a black Range Rover parked beside you. She glances at your Corolla. Is that an 11? She asks. You say yes. She smiles and says, smart. Those things run forever, closes her trunk, and drives off without another word. You stand there a second in the empty lot. That's the first genuinely kind thing anyone said about that car all year. Back home, you dig the old napkin out of the kitchen drawer. The number written on it has grown. You put it back without adding to it. You don't know it yet, but the doubt Gerald planted at that lunch is starting to put down roots. The pity. You are 28. The Corolla's at 121,000 miles now. The trunk needs a firm shove to latch shut. You've got the motion memorized. A Monday morning in the office parking lot, a woman from payroll named Diane, mid-40s, driving a Camry, stops beside your car. Honey, are you doing all right? She asks, gently. You say, I'm totally fine, really. She says, if you ever need anything at all, just say something. We've all had rough patches. You thank her and smile. You are not in a rough patch. You have $104,000 sitting in savings. You don't mention that part. Wednesday, the office break room. 2 coworkers at the next table don't notice you're within earshot. One says, did you see his car in the lot? I actually feel bad for the guy. He works so hard. The other says, maybe he's sending money to family back home or something. You quietly pick up your lunch and eat it back at your desk instead. The car is still just the car. Friday at the grocery store. An older neighbor, maybe 60, spots you in the cereal aisle. Saw your car in the driveway again, she says. My nephew fixes those up for practically nothing if you ever want his number. You thank her. She pats your shoulder like you've just admitted something brave. Saturday, Sunday dinner at your parents'. Your mother pulls you into the kitchen away from everyone else. Your father and I were talking, she says. We could help you get into something newer. Just a little help, that's all. You tell her you really don't need it. She says, it's okay to need help sometimes, you know? You hug her tightly and steer the conversation somewhere else. Driving home that night, you pass Kyle's building. The Acura is parked out front, and now there's a new Mercedes beside it too. You don't ask whose it is. Sitting in your kitchen later, you realize the number on that napkin is bigger than your entire yearly salary now. You don't even need to open the drawer to know it. You don't know it yet, but pity, it turns out, cuts a lot deeper than any joke ever did. The test. You are 30. A Saturday evening in late June. A college friend's wedding, an outdoor venue, string lights strung between the trees, a small live band setting up. You drive Priya there in the Corolla. She holds the hem of her dress carefully away from the seatbelt buckle. You park in the very last row. The lot around you is full of Range Rovers, a Porsche parked crooked across 2 spaces, a brand new electric SUV with the paper plates still on. Priya glances around the lot, then back at you. Wow, Kyle's really doing well for himself, huh? You stop walking for a second. She's not trying to be unkind. She's just noticing out loud. That somehow makes it land harder. Yeah, you say. He's doing well. At the reception, Kyle rolls up in a brand new matte black SUV, top of the line. Priya's expression flickers for a split second before she catches herself. You see it anyway. Kyle hugs you tight, smelling like cologne that probably costs more than a month of your groceries. His phone buzzes in his jacket pocket. He doesn't check it. There's a small, involuntary twitch under his eye. Bro, seriously, you gotta upgrade at some point, he says. Just once. You'd feel completely different. You smile and say, maybe. That night, driving home, Priya's quiet for a long stretch. Halfway there, she finally says, I just want you to actually enjoy your money. That's all I'm saying. You drop her home and drive the rest of the way alone. Sitting on your couch past 1 a.m., you open your phone and pull up a car buying app. A brand new SUV pops up, $48,000, financing available, 0 down. Your thumb hovers right above the button. You think about the flicker on Priya's face in that parking lot. You think about Kyle's twitching eye. You think about Gerald chewing slowly at that lunch table years ago. You close the app and just sit there in the dark for almost 20 minutes. You dig the napkin back out of the drawer. The number now reads $171,000. You slide it back in without another word. The shift. You are 32. The Corolla is sitting at 187,000 miles now. The check engine light flickered on 3 weeks back. Turned out to be a $75 sensor. It's off now. Marcus pops the hood, hooks up the jumper cables, glances at your car, then over at you. He asks how long you've had it. About 10 years, you say. He actually stops what he's doing for a second. 10 years, same car, he repeats, almost to himself. He smiles and says, my old man drove the same pickup for 19 years. Paid cash for it up front. Used what he didn't spend on payments to put my sister all the way through college. You stand there in the cold without saying much. Marcus says, most people don't get guys like that. They just assume he was being cheap. He wasn't cheap. He was actually free. The Corolla sputters, catches, and finally turns over. Marcus shuts the hood and says, keep her running as long as you can, man, before heading back to his truck. That weekend, Kyle calls asking if you can spot him $3,000 until his next paycheck comes in. You say yes without hesitating. He promises he'll pay you back. You don't ask him what it's actually for. Somewhere, you already know. You hang up, sit down on the couch, and realize something for what feels like the first time in 8 years. You were never actually behind. You don't know it yet, but the doubt that moved in years ago is finally starting to pack its bags. The reveal. You are 34. The Corolla's got 224,000 miles on it. A Friday afternoon in March, sitting at a red light, you hear it. A low grinding sound, then a hiss, then total silence. You coast into a nearby lot and call for a tow. The mechanic pokes around under the hood for close to an hour before coming out wiping his hands on a rag. Head gasket, he says. About $2,800 to fix it properly. Honestly, at this mileage, I wouldn't bother. You sit down on a bench outside the shop. You're not upset at all. You pull out your phone and open your savings account. The balance reads $312,000. You sit there looking at it for a long, quiet moment. That afternoon, Gerald calls. He's 74 now, retired a few years back. Heard the Corolla finally gave out on you, he says. You ask how he already knew. Your dad told me. He's genuinely proud of you. You know that? You don't say anything for a second. Gerald asks, do you remember what I told you at that lunch 10 years back? You tell him you remember every single word of it. He laughs and says, most people just buy cars. They're really buying permission. You were the first one in 20 years who actually got it. You wipe your eye without really meaning to. You didn't just save your money, kid, he says. You bought yourself. Then he hangs up. That evening, you walk over to a used lot a few blocks from your apartment. You spot a 2021 Corolla, 38,000 miles, priced at $13,200. You pay in cash and drive it straight home. Your phone buzzes with a text from Kyle. Can we talk? I'm in some real trouble. You read it twice, then text back a single word. Come over. Kyle shows up around 9 and sits down on your couch. He's only 29, but he looks a lot older tonight. I owe like $94,000, he says. 3 different cards, the lease, the watch I bought last year. You make him a coffee and sit down across from him. How did you actually pull this off? He asks. Be straight with me. You think about Gerald, about Marcus, about the way Priya went quiet in the car that night. I just stopped buying permission, you tell him. He doesn't get it yet. He will, eventually. Later, you drive him home in the new Corolla. The radio actually works now. The heater actually works. The car just does what a car is supposed to do. You pull into your own driveway around midnight and sit there for a minute without moving. You think about the guy at the gas station, the woman with the Range Rover, Diane, Brandon, Marcus, Priya, your own mother. Every one of them who ever looked at that old car. They all saw a car. What you eventually understood was the actual question sitting underneath it the entire time. The question was never really, what should you be driving? The question, this whole time, was who are you, really? You finally answered that one. Maybe you're the person who kept one car running for 10 straight years. Maybe you're the person quietly worried that you should be. Maybe, some days, you're a little bit like Kyle. Either way, there's a question sitting in your driveway tonight, same as it was in his. Whether you ever answer it is entirely up to you.